Okay. Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting if you reach out to me through my email, oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show, check out our Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. I got up there some brand new exclusive FOIA docs about the New York City Yippies. And there's a lot of stuff on my old content back, the FBI surveillance of the Yippies and stuff. And infiltration of meetings and events and stuff like that. So you're not going to find that anywhere else. So that's up at Patreon there for free. Then you got Friday night, Eastern Time, 8 p.m. for 14 years. 3 hours of brand new podcast content. 1 hour solo. And then 2 hours of, brand new podcast interviews. We've got some big changes coming up with that. Okay, we had a little, I don't know if you want to call them setbacks or opportunities. But there are some changes coming to the podcast, okay, that you could look forward to. So keep your eye out on that. If you enjoy this show and you've been listening on Spreaker for many, many years, keep an eye because we're going to be doing some major changes. Okay, and hopefully it's for the good. It's for the better. I think it will be. Anyway, also, too, while we're on the subject, I also going to be making some changes in my personal, professional life, too. I'm starting a new company. I can't tell you the name of it. It's still doing investigations, but it's also going to be focusing as well. And I'll still keep the old company active, so no problem there. Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting will still be in operation. But the new company is going to be focused on, it's a big operation. It's going to be focused on political opposition research and also vetting out candidates, employment candidates, executive background searches and vetting, political opposition research, and then that's the platform for expanding into campaign management, campaign consulting. Political campaign management, political campaign consulting, fundraising, and what's the other thing there is? Communications, running communications for campaigns. So that's a whole new, might come as a surprise to some people, but this is what's been going on in the background. There's a lot of movement here. If you notice, I've been taking these trips to New York and stuff. It's not just out of because I like the pretzels. I like I like those soubrette hot dogs, okay? There's no dust growing on that Opperman, I can tell you that. And also, too, I can't get into the whole details, but the big project I've been working on to locate some funds, a PI job, locating some hidden assets, we're like right on the cusp. I should have the answer on it today. Big job, and I've been working on it for quite a while. Not focused on it. It's not something I'm focused on every single day, but something I've been focused on for a while now. I guess the past 5 years, 6 years. And finally, I know, we got it. Okay, we got it, and it's going to be ultimately a big payday to me. So that's a lot of good stuff going on in the background, in the foreground, in the front, in the back, and on the sides. At the good old Opperman Reports. A lot going on. Other stuff, too, with previous guests I've been helping out and working with as well, too. There's a lot going on over here, man. If people had any idea, I think you'd be shocked. We used to talk about doing a reality TV show. We're beyond that now, man. we're talking about the fleeing the country. Let's see here. Coming up after this tonight, I'm not thrilled with this audio in my headset. But what are you going to do? I gotta work on this. Coming up tonight after this live show is two really good shows. Two shows I'm proud of. One is Professor David Ost. Is that? I don't think it's there. No, I got to pull up the book. It's not even up in Spreaker yet. Professor David Ost, Red Pill Politics, Demystifying Today's Far Right. Now, great guest, great book, brilliant man. I kind of yell at him a few times. I think I kind of, I don't think he's used to getting screamed at by some crazy leftist fanatic. But overall, we got along great, and great content. And this guy's been a student of fascism and this kind of stuff, and communism, capitalism, and socialism for years. Well, this guy's 10 years older than me, and we come out of the same area too, Bronx and Brooklyn. So you got that kind of a rhythm, going. So that's a good one there. Then there's another really good one too. This fellow, he's kind of anonymous. He goes by the name Joseph. We didn't focus on his name, but he's been doing this research for quite some time now, and you can find it on his Medium page, which is hard to find. Come on, where is this? What's going on here? I just said a second ago. I apologize. Oh, Alpha Omega Research Foundation of Palm Beach, Florida. And this is this Slovenian outpost, diplomatic outpost that's walking distance to Mar-a-Lago. And they got all this kind of weird physics research and stuff like that, the kind of stuff that Epstein was into. And, Slovenian is what Melania is. And this couple, they went to Slovenia the same time that Trump visited Slovenia, the only time he went there. It's like a Slovenian consulate that's walking distance from the First Lady Slovenia. There's no way she could not have contact with this place. It would be impossible, So, and he's done quite a bit of research on this, all the strange going on and behaviors going on with this research group. And there's different connections to people like Roy Cohn and stuff. So, really good stuff there. That's a good show. Okay, you guys doing a lot of good work. Needs to back up the emails about 10%. Reduce emailing me by with 90%. Okay, let's see here. Okay, let's get to the notes. Got a lot of content this week. Let's start with the last week. I was talking about Berkman and Wall and that rapper Boozy Badass who gave them $600,000 for a pardon. And when I shared that information with you, I don't think I was clear that I'm deep in this pardon game, this pardon operation, this pardons for sale with Trump. I've had several guests on the show who were intimately involved, were offered pardons for $2 million. Okay, John Kiriakou comes on the show and he talks about it. Kiriakou, the CIA guy who's all over the place and got his own podcast. I had him on before he was all over the place and had his own podcast. I had one 10 years ago. So anyway, he's a good guest though. And he was offered a pardon from Bob Costello and Rudy Giuliani for $2 million. It was at that Hunter Biden, at the Bradley Birkenfeld book launch party where they were talking about the Hunter Biden laptop. And that whole thing came out how Keith Abloh had another copy of the laptop. And I speculate even that the offer was, hey, John, if you can go get that laptop, we'll give you a pardon. Because it was all the same amount. They wanted $2 million for the laptop. They wanted $2 million for the pardon. That's 100% speculation, though, on my part. I can't tell you what's going on with that. But I know what's going on with these pardons, guys, okay? And I've known all these people for years, okay? And I even lobbied on behalf of a client to get them a pardon. So I know what the deal is with these pardons and stuff. This is not something that I'm imagining, and I go back with Berkman and Wall, too, as well. So this is not like I'm sitting back with some kind of theory or I'm Googling or I'm watching Netflix. This is stuff that I'm working on in real life, have intimate knowledge with. So it kind of struck me. I don't know if I talked about it on last week's show, but I know I talked about when Dave Emery was interviewing me this week. I talked about it. As I've come to the conclusion that all this business about the Epstein Transparency Act files and how they're being released, and some are being released by the estate. Remember that first batch that was released by the estate? And then remember that batch around the birthday book The scuttlebutt around that birthday book that was released was done on behalf of Ghislaine Maxwell. Somehow that was advancing her negotiations. Okay, the release of that birthday book. And then we had the release of the estate documents, which came out in a very unusual, it wasn't e-discovery formatting, so I don't know how they put this thing together. And, it wasn't even made searchable. Some volunteers came forward and made it searchable. So it's bizarre to begin with. And the ETA files, too, aren't in some e-discovery format, too. They're just in their own format that they kind of invented along the way. I don't know how that works. Because how do you get this material? And how come there's not all this overlap of all the different materials? Right? This is how come we're not getting the same stuff duplicated? And now we have this viral meme out there, this viral chant, this viral movement. Release the files, release the Epstein files. There's 3 million files that are unreleased. And then we have Katie Fang, the heroine of the new Lou Reed heroine here, coming out and doing her little lawsuit there. And everyone thinks it's to release 3 million files. It's basically to release not even 100 files. But she's the latest heroine and propped up to be the latest superstar in all this. All right? I've been doing this a long time, guys. You're not going to pull some shit over my eyes. I'm not stupid. This is work I'm doing every day of the week, man. This is not like I'm some guy Googling and out here foolishness, reading books and getting my information from Netflix and articles. Okay. So I'm looking at all this, and from what I know about these pardons for sale, now I'm saying, look at this, man. We got these guys here, all these hustlers, these grifters, these fixers, these corrupt bribery guys. And they're in control of these files. They're deciding what gets released and what doesn't get released. They're deciding what gets redacted and what doesn't get redacted. And and the same guys, the same crew of guys that are funneling and taking all these payments for these pardons, some of them are the same exact guys. The same exact guys that are in these Epstein lawsuits and Epstein lawyers and Epstein co-defendants and Epstein in the mix with Epstein. Some of them are the same exact guys. One of the guys, the rumor is, gets the cheapest deal with these pardons. He can get you these pardons for less than anybody else. Okay? Discount, they might call it. He's got the discount on this, okay? And there's a guy I've talked about many, many times when Hoffenberg was friends with him. Okay, so we talk about this guy. I don't want to get sued. All right, but that's what the word on the street is if you want to be Huggy Bear or Rooster from the old Starsky and Hutch, the old Beretta series. That's the word on the street, ladies and gentlemen, from a guy who's on the street. Not a guy that's Googling what's on the street. The guy's on the street. It's telling you the word on the street. At this point, from my educated experience in this area, there is no doubt in my mind that this is for sale. They're holding back names for sale. They're redacting names for sale. They're putting out enemies' names to get revenge against enemies, and they're holding back people that pay them. And there's a price on all this. I don't know what the price is yet, but I'll find out, because once I start talking about this on the air, I start hearing. Okay. Now, so I posted about this a little bit on Twitter and Threads, and I get these kind of comments, that could be. That makes sense. That's a possibility. That's a good possibility. Okay, when I go stick my neck out and I say something like this, it's not because it's a good possibility. This is what I'm reporting to you. Okay? When I say something like this. So I get a little offended when I see that kind of stuff. This is what I am reporting to you. And you can have your opinions, whatever you want, but this is what I'm reporting to you. Okay, if you don't like it, then go somewhere else. That's fine with me too. I got no problem with that. If anything, my credibility and my respect grows every day, rather than diminishes. So if you don't like what I'm saying, what I'm putting out here, take off. I got no problem with that. So that was last week, and I wanted to go in there and reconfirm all that about these pardons for sale, and that I believe 100% now, I'm convinced that these redactions and these omissions from these files are for pay. That's for hire. It's for sale. So that's that. Oh, no, there was something else that went along with that. Yeah, let's hit this one here. This is Daniel Said, or Said, S-I-A-D. This is a French model scout that's in the Epstein files. His name is in there thousands of times. Now, this guy's totally off my radar. I had no idea who this guy was until about a week ago. I started seeing his name all over social media. Saying, look at this guy. And then there's even an email of him where he's openly telling Epstein, I can get these 13-year-old girls for you. They can be brand ambassadors, or whatever hostesses or spokespersons, whatever you call them, the kind of euphemism he used. But this guy made no secret of the fact, I'm delivering you 13-year-old children. Okay? Which is pretty much a big deal for these files, because I don't see a lot of stuff in there. But I had never heard of this guy before. But suddenly, like a few days before he dies, I start seeing his name all over the place. And then, after he dies, I start hearing from everybody. Everybody who I've ever talked to about Epstein is coming to me, hey, Ed, what do you know about this guy? And I says, you know what? I don't know anything about him except that just the other day he was all over the news. Now, the guy died at 69 years old. That's not, he's lived a hard life. The guy's a hard partying guy. 69 is not unreasonable to die. I'm 63. I almost died a couple of years ago. I was dying. If I had not gone in for that heart thing, I would be dead. I'm sure I would have killed myself. I couldn't live like that. So 69 is not unreasonable. I think there's even a picture of him in a wheelchair. I'm not sure if that's him or not. So, but if you're 69 and all this stuff is coming out and suddenly now you're all over social media and you see the writing on the wall, you know, that could kill you alone. Just the stress and the sudden activity, your phone ringing off the hook, lawyers, you have to hire lawyers and you have to hire press people, you know, knocking on your door. The press is relentless, man. These paparazzi types, man, these tabloid types, man, they show up at your door, knocking on your door, and they don't stop knocking till you open. I've seen that. So could that have driven him to his death? Could that have driven him to a suicide? We don't know because there's very little details around the circumstances of his death. Very little is known. But what I do know is that there was nothing about suddenly before he died, this guy was all over the place. And then he died shortly after. So it could be either way. That they killed him because he suddenly became well known. Suicide because he suddenly became well known, or the stress of being suddenly well known put him down. But there's no doubt in my mind that that chain of events there. Okay, and there's also too no doubt in my mind that there's some kind of a green light on this guy to be allowed to be reported on, because there's other deaths around this stuff that I find way more suspicious. And some of the characters around that have done some really shady things. But they're just not approved to be discussed. And I'm not out here to drag people's names through the muds that are victims and stuff like that are survivors. So we'll just leave it at that. Another thing came up this week about Ronan Farrow's book, and there's a quote in that book about a fellow that I know. And I'm trying to understand how they got the quote from this guy, but supposedly this is involved in the Katie Johnson case. Now, Ronan Farrow never contacted me about that book, but he definitely knows everybody around me, and there's no way he could not know who I am and what my involvement is in this, but he never contacted me. Okay. I know other people that were in direct contact constantly with Ronan Farrow, then once he's done with it, he's just done with shit, and doesn't return your calls anymore. He has this quote in there about this fellow that I know. This fellow who, around that same time, was telling me about what a big fan he was of my show. The first phone call I had with this fellow, the first words out of his mouth was, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of your show there, Ed. And I says, yeah, bullshit. And he started rattling off stuff. He knew all about my show. He knew the sponsors. He knew the guests. He knew the topics. He knew a lot of stuff. And I'm trying to put together the timeline, how this fits in with the Katie Johnson stuff, because I didn't reveal my involvement with Katie Johnson until 2019 after the death of Epstein. Wasn't allowed to. But he's quoted in his Ronan Farrow book saying, "Don't worry, Mr. Trump. I'm going to dig up everything I can. I'm going to find out everything I can about this Katie Johnson story for you. I'm going to work on this for you." And it just seems odd to me that maybe that's how this guy knew about me and knew about my show. And he's never mentioned it to me, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to make enemies with people. I'm not looking to make enemies here from people, that I'm friendly with. But very, very, very interesting. Very interesting development in my book. Brings up another very interesting development that came out this week. Something else I've been talking to you about for 10 years. But what do I know? You know what I mean? Like, what more do you want? It just blows my mind. I see some of these people out there, these experts and authorities, man, and all they know is from what they memorize a lot of stuff from what they've Googled and done like that. But come on, give me a break. They have no involvement in any of this stuff to know anything, and they have the opportunity. They're one of them, I just saw recently, they have an opportunity to ask me stuff, they know who I am. They know what I'm doing. And there's certain theories and certain agendas they want to promote that are contrary from what I know in reality. But what are you going to do? Unfortunately, I didn't just come out of nowhere and get like 1 million followers. Okay. I've been around a long time and I got 1 million followers, but they're all over the place. They don't, a lot of them are Trumpies too. A lot of my people are Trump supporters. I have Trump derangement syndrome. But remember how I told you, who was the first one to interview Conchita Sarnoff, Traffic King, about the book about Jeffrey Epstein? It came out around 2014, right? Who was the first person to interview her? Good old Ed Opperman. And I interview her, and before I interview her, I get a phone call from her publisher, Victor Ostrovsky, who is a former Mossad agent, who was her publisher. And his books are all about how the Mossad uses deception to make their way through life. And his publishing company has a funny name too, something like the Cover Story, something like that. Don't quote me directly on what it is, but it's a shady, funny name that could be taken two ways. And I have Conchita Sarnoff on the show, and she tells me, "Oh yeah, I knew Ghislaine Maxwell, and I knew Jeffrey Epstein, and I know Mr. Trump, and Mr. Trump never said that Epstein was his friend of 15 years, and he liked girls on the younger side." Remember that quote from the Vicky Ward article? Trump's voice booming over the speakerphone. "Jeffrey Epstein was my friend for 15 years. He sure loves his social life, and likes the girls on the younger side." Right? Now, when that quote first came out, I believe, in the New Yorker magazine, or New York magazine, I forget which one. And the magazine was online. You could read the article online. But when for it to come up in a Google search, you really had to work to find that article. You had to put in Vicky Ward, New York. You had to know the name of the magazine, and you had to have a direct quote of what came from the quote there in order for it to come up. Because when I started talking about that, and I invited Vicky Ward on the show, she agreed to come on the show, then she backed out at the last second. When I first started talking about that quote, this is way back before 2016, people were accusing me of making it up. I made a meme. One of my producers on the show, I can't make a meme, made a meme of it, and he put at the bottom the Opperman Report YouTube channel. That YouTube channel got shut down within like 48 hours of that meme going out, okay? But people saw that meme with that quote, and they thought I made it. People accused me of making it up. And people would even come to me politely and say, "Well, hey, Ed, can you got a link for that? Because, not that I don't believe you, but my mother-in-law is arguing with me. She doesn't believe me, and I don't have a link to send it." So it was hard to find that link. It was buried. And when Conchita Sarnoff comes on the show, after I get vetted by her Mossad publisher, she misquotes it. And I'm arguing with her during the interview. It was a 30-minute interview. She wouldn't even give me an hour. And she reveals that she's friends with Trump. She's friends with Epstein. She's friends with Ghislaine. She's a member of Mar-a-Lago. She's in with this crew. She doesn't say it on the show, but we find out later on. Pierce Redmond did a lot of work on this for me. I'll tell you what happened, man. I didn't want to. There were certain things I didn't want to put my own name on this, so I fed it out there. I leaked it out to my friends. And they went out there and did a lot of research on it. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Good old Ed Opperman's behind you don't know. Okay, there's a lot of anonymous quotes from an inside investigator that's out there that you could find. But I like what I'm doing. I like how I'm doing it, and I do everything for a reason. And so we did some research. Besides this Victor Ostrovsky thing, was just blew everybody away. You know, and I did interviews too, like on YouTube with people like Sean Atwood and stuff like that. And who was the other one? That guy, Lift the Veil. And I mentioned this whole thing about Victor Ostrovsky and the Mossad. And they would say, ho, 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 this guy thinks he talked to the Mossad. If he thinks it was the Mossad, then it wasn't the Mossad. Because good old Ed Opperman's over his head and doing these things. Okay. Here we are 14 years later. Who's right? So we did some other research into this. We found out that she ran this advocacy group for teen girls that were being sex trafficked, coincidentally. And her lawyer for that organization was Kirkland Ellis, which was the law firm that represented Jeffrey Epstein. And it was a law firm that Bill Barr worked for both before the 2008 conviction and after the 2008 conviction. He worked for Kirkland Ellis. Okay. And by the way, it's guys like that are negotiating these pardons and negotiating these I might have to, it's getting pretty loud out there. Negotiating these pardons and negotiating these redactions and stuff like that. Okay. So we found out all this stuff about how she was involved with Kirkland Ellis and was basically making excuses and running interference for Trump, and was friends with Ghislaine and was friends with Epstein. But she wrote a book exposing Epstein. Ed, she's one of the good guys. Don't you understand how these things work, Ed? Oh, yeah, I'm trying to explain to you how these things work. The other thing was with her, too, is it turns out that she's the one who popularized the 4-page letter written by Alex Acosta, where he talks about how, we had to give them that deal because they were picking on us. The defense was picking on us. They went into our bosses at the Justice Department, and they had private investigators following us around, and we had to do it. And I remember reading that 4-page letter back in the old days. I think I even posted it in the archives. And I said, I fell for it. You know, I didn't realize how deep Acosta was in all this stuff either. You know? It was her, Conchita Sarnoff, that promoted that letter. You know what these phrases? Lolita Express, Pedophile Island, you know where they come from? Conchita Sarnoff. Okay? Every time you guys say this bullshit about Lolita Express, the Pedophile Island, really, the island. Every time all you well-meaning folks promote all this stuff, and every time you say release the files. Every time you say release the files, Trump gets another ching-ching on his cash register there, because he can go back to his people and say, hey, listen, they want me to release these files. I need more money. They keep these files too redacted, guys. I got the pressure. I got all these people. It's a groundswell. The popular opinion wants these files released. Yeah. Whenever you see something gone viral, man, you got to know. You got to take a really good look at it and see who's behind it. But what do I know? So she's the one that released all this stuff about Pedophile Island, Lolita Express, and all this stuff. So what do I find out this week? I got a note from one of my loyal, long-time listeners. I didn't recognize the name or anything, but one of the listeners says, hey, Ed, what do you make of this Conchita Sarnoff? Her dead husband was the CIA director. And I, what? What? My Conchita Sarno? The one that I was already worried enough about because of Kirkland Ellis and because of the Mossad guy. Now I got to deal with the CIA director too as well. Well, he's dead now, but okay. But, turns out Conchita Sarnoff was married to James Forsley, Obama's CIA director. What the hell's going on there? Now, it seems, I looked at, I only had a chance to look at this a little bit, but it seems like she married him around 2020, which would be shortly after our first interview. But was she dating him during that period of time? She had to have known him, right? I don't know what the timeline is on all that stuff. But how deep was this guy in with Epstein? If his wife is friends with Ghislaine and all these people, how much deep was Forsley involved with all these guys? That's something for you Googlers. That's Googling stuff. All you guys out there like to Google stuff, right? Google. Get Google in there. Let's see. What else we got here? Oh. Might run out of content. Maybe not. Came out, while we're talking about all this, Kirkland Ellis, comes out that the Tate brothers, they got picked up in Miami, right, on these child porn, child sex trafficking charges, right? And the usual folks are coming out defending them, right? And one of their lawyers is from the old Roy Black law firm. Okay. Let me see if I can find that email I sent to Dave Emery. Because that has good notes on that. So down in Miami, they hired this law firm. And Roy Black's dead now. But one of his former partners is running the firm now. And he's out there doing his spokesperson act there for the Tate brothers. There it goes. The firm now is called Black Strebnick. Okay, and Strebnick was out there with the Tate brothers. And by the way, he was out there with talking on behalf of the Tate brothers and whining about their jail conditions, about them being in solitary and not getting food in jail. Now, just so you know, that's not well respected. That's not well respected by other prisoners. It's not well respected by prosecutors. It's not a respected move. That's why you never see it. That's why you never see it. If you go to jail and you were mistreated in jail, and you start complaining to your lawyer about that, they're not going to talk about that in front of the judge. You're not going to do that at a press conference. That's just not done. Because anybody who's anybody knows that this is how stuff goes. Now, the other inmates don't respect that either, and the guards don't respect that either. So it's a pussy move. It's a super pussy move as far as for an inmate to go and start whining and have their lawyer whining on TV. And this lawyer has to know this. And for him to be whining on TV about child molesters not getting treated well, not getting a meal in 24 hours, give me a break, man. You know, that guys die in prison, man, from lack of health care. And, you know, they're in there going through withdrawals and stuff like that. This, and didn't get a meal? Are you kidding? You raped a kid and you didn't get a meal in 24 hours? What, are you kidding me? You know, people, the average guy listening to this doesn't understand, like, how atrocious that is, how you know, outlandish. To have a high-priced lawyer like this going out there whining that their client is in solitary and didn't get a meal. They're in solitary for their own safety. By the way, Roy Black is known as a negotiation lawyer. They're making a plea deal. His involvement, Roy Black's involvement, and we're going to get into this. Roy Black's involvement with Epstein was that he negotiated the plea deal, the plea arrangements, okay? That was because he has got the local juice, the local Florida juice. Okay, Roy Black had super juice. Okay, back when he was really, right around that Epstein time. Okay, and years before. Okay, but Roy Black is also the guy who when Epstein hired those private investigators to go out and talk to his victims, when they were being contacted, when they were actively witnesses against him, he went to Roy Black, and Roy Black hired the investigators to go out. And I believe that those investigators acted unethically and certainly immorally, okay, and went over the line, okay. So Epstein hired Roy Black to do his dirty work and hired PIs to do dirty work, okay. So that's where Roy Black is his legacy is tainted, in my opinion, because he was a respected lawyer. And now he's taken on, or his inherited law firm, from this Srebnick guy, and there's a couple other partners now too came on board, and still don't have the combined juice of Roy Black, but they keep the name on the door. Are now representing these Tate brothers. So they've already got the reputation that they'll go and be heavy-handed against witnesses and intimidate witnesses and bribe witnesses and all that kind of stuff. And they have a reputation as being negotiators too, to negotiate a settlement, that the Tate brothers are going to negotiate a settlement and intimidate their witnesses. That's that's the signal that's sent to me. Now, side note, you might recall I had a guest on this show named Joe Francis from Girls Gone Wild. Now, the audio on that show is not great, but it's worth listening to several times because there's a lot of things we get into. There's a lot of questions I ask him. He dances around. Okay? I can't spoon feed everything to you, like some guys. I had on a guest a few weeks back. There's a private investigator who has Nicholas Schreck at his house, staying at his house with him. And at the end of the interview, the guy says, "Well, what about you? What's your connection to the occult?" This guy's all mixed up with Manson and all this other stuff, and Nicholas Schreck. And he goes, "Well, he goes on to this long story about how he had a great grandfather who was involved in the occult, but not me." And one of the listeners says, "Well, Dad, I don't believe that." Oh, you don't? Oh, boy, you're a sharp one there. You're a sharpie there. I can't spoon feed you, what's going on. You got to listen for yourself, like a grown-up, Thank God most of the audience is smart people. Not to offend anybody. Stuff goes over your head. But I had a guest on Joe Francis, Girls Gone Wild, and we get into some stuff. I asked, how'd you have a private plane before Girls Gone Wild? We're down there in Mexico, you're flying around. He was all mixed up in that whole thing with the Paris Hilton tape, One Night in Paris with that guy, Rick Solomon. Well, how does he make his living? Professional gambler, poker player? You know what I mean? So what's going on there? I got these private planes. What's going on? Even Joe Francis now lives down in Mexico, in a house next door to Bill Gates, and he brags on the show about how my house is nicer than Bill Gates. Yeah, from that videotape money, I heard you went broke on that. What's going on there, Joe? He's been kidnapped by his own bodyguards. What's going on? Oh, been kidnapped several times. Got kidnapped by a guy associated with Paris Hilton, which is we try and touch on these things with him, but he's a good dancer, he dances around, but we got along great, and had some conversations after the show, before the show, and he mentions about how he was neighbors with Elon Musk and Quincy Jones. They lived in a cul-de-sac. They hung out every afternoon by the pool, and then he starts telling me about how he's happy that Musk and Trump are running the country. I got to have him come back and see how he feels about that now. Talks about how he bought the first Tesla. Had problems with it. Okay. And then he talks about how Mr. Trump, before he was president, back in the 80s or the early 90s, when Girls Gone Wild was a big operation, doing those infomercials all night long, Mr. Trump started calling his office every day and haranguing his secretaries that he wanted to hang out with Joe Francis. I wonder what they could have in common. You know what Girls Gone Wild was? It was these college girls. He would go down to the beach and make them take their tops off, to be on the videotape. Then he started getting charged with teenage prostitution, teenage pornography and stuff like that. Good old Joe Francis, right? So he's got all these charges. They really came down on this guy, man, because they didn't like what he was doing down to the tourism down there for spring break. And other issues. The guy's dancing around between the raindrops, this private plane and stuff, all kind of things going on there, which I don't know what he's doing, what he's not doing. But what do you call it? Got all these charges, serious charges, and he hires Roy Black. Ooh, hires Roy Black. And wouldn't you know it, Roy Black couldn't get him out of this stuff. He had a falling out with Roy Black. And after that falling out with Roy Black, he started accusing the judge of being in possession of child pornography. Really bizarre. We tried to get in touch on that too, because my other friend Steph Watts was not a lawyer, sat there as co-counsel. But at one point, Joe Francis defended himself. Really, this is wild stuff, man. But had the falling out with Roy Black, and that's kind of when the downturn of Roy Black's career started taking place. He started getting more aggressive, I guess you might call it, less ethical. And then this business with Epstein where he's going after teenage kids, man, intimidating little girls. How much lower can you go than that? Really not much, right? So that's where our friends, the Tate brothers, are now. Here's the guys that are in position to buy pardons, that's for sure. They're in the same kind of financial position as Epstein was to get a sweetheart deal as these... as Epstein got. They got the same portion of the same law firm, out there who pretty much negotiated that, handled the dirty work and handled the negotiations for them. So that seems to be the path that they're taking. Now, there's this thing that people imagine in their heads, and they say, well, dude, once they get to prison, though, the other inmates, there's going to be justice. The other inmates are going to take them down, and there's going to be justice. Now, it's sort of like life imitating art, okay? This whole theory or this whole myth about inmates having this kangaroo court and this justice, prison justice on child molesters. That was dreamed up. That was invented by a guy named, and I've told this story before, by a guy named Miguel Pinero, who was from the Bronx. And he was a playwright and a poet. He used to hang out at the New Eurekan Cafe in the Bronx. He was in and out of jail, and he wrote the film, the play, Short Eyes, which was about a guy on Rikers Island who was accused of molesting kids, and they cut him up and they killed him, and then they found out he wasn't guilty. And it became a movie. You can watch the movie on YouTube right now. You can go Short Eyes, you can look it up. It's a good movie. Okay? And Miguel Pinero also, too, was a stick-up guy. He used to rob drug dealers. Okay, that's why he used to go to jail all the time. He always had money. And then later on, he played the role of Calderon in Miami Vice, the Colombian kingpin, wore sunglasses at night, that kind of guy. He's in a couple of little movies, too, but fascinating guy. He's dead now, heroin or AIDS or something like that. But he's the guy who invented this whole myth about kangaroo justice in prison for child molesters. Now, after that came out, it became popular. Yeah, there is like life imitates art. There is, that does exist today, but not to the extent that people think. Joel Steinberg, who killed little Lisa Steinberg and tortured her, had a very easy run in jail in New York, in prison in New York. Very easy run. He thrived in prison. He's thriving when he got out of prison. There's connections and money and payoffs and celebrity and notoriety that can overcome all of those obstacles for you in prison. For example, and the Tate brothers are they jive. They're right on that path. Okay, guys. The better chance of them doing 20, 40 years in Romania than doing any significant time here in the United States, or any significant heavy, hard time here in the United States where they're going to have any kind of repercussions behind bars. I got an email. Let me look at the clock here. Sorry. Long day. I got a whole day's work ahead of me, man. What am I looking at that for? Let's look at the calendar. Okay, good. We're doing good. I got an email about 2 years ago about Jared Folgle, and about how Jared Folgle is at the Englewood prison in Colorado, which is one of those little Fed camps, club feds, it's with bunk beds and stuff like that, and barbed wire, but it's in like a suburbs, The Federal Correctional Institute in Englewood, FCI Englewood, Colorado. And, he's getting out in 2029. This guy gets out in 3 years. Englewood is such a easy federal prison. Not as easy as Butler. But very easy, okay? And, what do you call it? Bogdanovich, that guy, Rod Blagojevich, from Chicago, that guy there who got, busted for the... Trump pardoned him, too. He went to Englewood, and Jared Folgle is in Englewood, and Englewood is 75% child pornography, child rapist. This is known as a sweet spot to go if you're into raping kids, if you're into child pornography. Now, just imagine, you make friends in there, and then you get out, Now you're on a whole new level of how to hide your perversions and trade kids and trade porn and all this kind of stuff like that. So Jared Fogle's in there now. 75% of that prison is child rapists. Okay, so they run the prison. And I got an email about 2 years ago. Hey, yeah, Jared Fogle's over here in Englewood, and he's running the joint. He's got a whole crew of guys he's paying. They're running around doing his laundry for him and all this kind of stuff like that. Bodyguards and all stuff, bringing him snacks. And he's living in here like a king. Jared Folgle. And then he says, when he's getting out, he's going to get out his first parole hearing in 2029. So that's what the Tate brothers have to look forward to here in the United States, man, with their friends with Barron and all that stuff like that. They're going to walk into a sweet deal like that. There's not going to be some justice like the Rikers Island in Short Eyes, This is reality. This is what's really going to happen. But you know what? It's just so weird, because just as long as people imagine that there's going to be this prison justice, it doesn't really have to happen. They're satisfied just with the imagination that that's how it works and that's what's going to happen. When I interviewed this guy, David Ost, about his book, Red Pill Nation, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Red Pill Politics, Demystifying Today's Far Right. The red pill thing was from the movie The Matrix. So, and we have all these people here, I'm red pill, They're taking something from a fantasy movie and they're applying it to politics, to real life politics. And there's people are just so lost in what's reality and what's fantasy now. And it's only getting worse and worse and worse every day. So people just to imagine that the Tate brothers are going to be getting raped up their butts when they get to prison, they're just happy with that, whether it happens or not, whether it's reality or not. They're just happy with the fantasy that it's happening, And I don't know how to solve that for you, okay? I'm one of these guys, I don't know, man, I'm weird. I stick to reality. I stick to reality. You know what I mean? But it's just so wild, man. It's just anyway, we're almost toward the end of the show. If you like our show, check us out on Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. And it does help support the show there too. And I'm going to be taken a bit of a hit here as far as the podcast goes. There's going to be some major changes. I think in the long run, it'll make more money and we'll have more listeners. I think there's certain things been holding us back and sabotaging us here, and then we've been getting a short shift on the deal. But there's going to be some pains. There's going to be some growing pains here, and I think I might miss the whole Christmas advertising season too. We're also going to be going back to a major focus on AM/FM radio too as well, and really doubling our efforts in that area. I come to the conclusion this week that there's so many, this bullshit podcast business, these potties out there, these podcasters who have totally diluted my work and my field of research. So many of these characters would kill to have what I've got, 8,000 hours worth of content, 14 years of content, the catalog of guests and material and stuff that I've had first by 10 years over and over and over. Even this Conchita Sarnoff stuff is, I'm out there first. How many times you have no idea something comes up and people, hey, I remember that you were talking about it 10 years ago? How often that comes up. So how many people, these new podcasters out there that are just trying to start a podcast, would kill to be in my position, to have this kind of a base and this kind of a history. And I've been kind of taking it for granted. I've been neglecting it. I've been kind of lazy about it, and ungrateful, and I don't want to be that way. I want to really take what I have and really utilize it. Had a former client guest, on the show, and talking to me this week, and they're in a lot of trouble in their personal life right now. And just for me to have the kind of resources to help somebody and to help them navigate through the kind of life, that they've made it on the show because they've had kind of an interesting life and kind of an ups and downs, and kind of a difficult life, and to be able to, how many people do they know that have that kind of experience with that kind of to navigate through these kind of problems and issues, besides good old Ed Opperman. It's a rare, it's a rarefied air, you know what I mean? But we are out of time. And so keep an eye out for my new company. I should probably be announcing it next week because we're in the process of creating the LLC and the DBAs today in 2 different states. It's not a little operation, So I'm going to be offering opposition research, executive vetting, background checks, and in the future, political communications, comms, and fundraising and campaign management is going to be our focus in these new areas here that we're working on. All right, guys, coming up after this, David Ost, and then our friend here about this Alpha Omega Research Foundation of Palm Beach, Florida. Very interesting stuff there, too, as well. All right, guys, good night.
Hold me close and hold me fast. The magic spell you cast. This is La Via Rosa. When you kiss me, heaven sighs, and though I close my eyes, I see La Via Rosa. When you press me to your heart, I'm in a world apart, a world where roses bloom. And when you speak, angels sing from above. Everyday words seem to turn into love songs. Give your heart and soul to me, and life will always be La Vie en Rose. La da da dee. everyday words seem to turn into love songs. Give your heart and soul to me, and life will always